showing, yeah. But no, just to kind of, you can look at this camera here.
Live on there now. Ready? And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon and welcome to this live-in conversation. It is my pleasure to welcome Tanya Kiang, Director of the Gallery of Photography Ireland, and Dara McGrath. Dara's exhibition, For Those Who Tells No Tales, is on show here in the gallery until the end of August. We hope many of you will have a chance to come and see the exhibition in person. If you can't make the journey, unfortunately, please, we invite you to have a look at our website, where there is quite a lot on the exhibition. And also, there will be a launch of an independent complementary publication mid-August. In the meantime, please enjoy this in conversation, and we invite you to publish your comments or if you have any questions on our live feed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anne. It's such a pleasure to be here. Delighted to see you in person. And this is just, I wanted to say, this is just a fantastic exhibition. And just to reiterate what Anne was saying, if you can come, please do, because it's a wonderful installation. It's a real experience. But having said that, if you can't, the virtual tour of this show is also, a top-notch job. So well done to all concerned. And I'd also like to just thank very much the Crawford Art Gallery for inviting me here to see it in person and to have this conversation with you, Dara. We go back a certain way, but we'll park that for the moment. And what I wanted to ask you first was, could you please just describe in the most basic way what this show, how many pictures, what people would see when they come in.
Okay, firstly, Tanya, thank you for coming to Cork. And we're here in the Crawford Art Gallery. We're in here in the lower gallery. This is on the ground floor as you come in on the left-hand side. So it's that big gallery space there. What we have here is my exhibition, For Those That Tell No Tales. It's a 3-year-long study of the sites where people lost their lives during the Irish War of Independence. Looking around here, what we have is 59 photographs on various mediums, some framed, unframed, some on dye bonds, acrylics, vinyls. We also have little text pieces to accompany some of the photographs themselves. You can see from that there's a kind of we've tried to work the space as much as possible to kind of fit in to the whole centenary of commemorations, but also the project itself. And myself and Dawn Williams, in the dark days of January, spent a lot of time planning and laying out this whole exhibition.
Right. No, absolutely. So fair play. It's really very excellent installation. Let's just start from the very beginning, though. And I believe it was around November 2017. You were, so pre-COVID, pre-lockdowns and 5-kilometre restrictions. You were taking pictures around Cork. You have lived here for 20 years more. How did the kind of the turn to the looking at and commemorating those who died in the War of Independence in the Cork area, where did that come from?
It came from a series of conversations I had with Dan Breen, curator of Cork Public Museum. I'm fortunate enough that I work there part-time under Dan, and part of my job remit is to basically take care of the photographic archive. So deal with image requests, etc., etc. So I'm dealing with people who have a lot of knowledge in this area in relation to the War of Independence. So through that series of conversations, Dan kind of encouraged me to say, listen, I know your work a little bit, and I think there could be an avenue in here to explore these sites where people died during the war.
Right. Because I should say, one of the first the first way I got to know your work was through the project Clean Sweep, and a fantastic body of work as well that is, and that's about the sites of chemical weapons dumps, and it's really a post-military landscape is one of the words used to describe it. That work, you know, it won one of the Solace Ireland Awards back in 2015. And we were to launch, the Dublin launch of the book was supposed to happen in March 2020 or so. So such a things have happened. But that particular body of work, being as was called a post-military landscape, a study of that. In a way, you're still working on post-military landscapes here now, and yet they're coming much closer to home. When after Dan Breen was talking about, you know, the role that Cork City has played in the War of Independence, when did the actual historical, the archive of Andy Bielenberg and other historians, when did that come into play?
I only discovered Andy's database, irishrevolution.ie, a couple of months into my project. It was basically, it put everything very much together for me. It gave me a place, a time, and a site to actually look at, to investigate. So before that, it was very, you know, there was a lot of tales, innuendo, you know, things were right, weren't right, contradictory in a lot in relation to these sites. And it was a bit scatterbrained, but once I found Andy Bielenberg's website, it was just, yeah, that's perfect.
All right. And I'm not familiar with it, but is it also has the same kind of even-handedness as regards who it was or what side it was that the people who died?
Yeah, I mean it's as neutral as possible. Now Andy based a lot of his research on courts of inquiry, coroner's reports, newspaper reports, rather than witness statements, because they can be very problematic.
Right.
Insofar as that people like to tell tales. People change the story to suit their needs very much.
Right, or memory itself is so, as we know, so malleable.
So malleable, absolutely. So it gave me a solid structure in which to research, to go out and investigate these spaces. It was actually quite funny because I had an ongoing conversation with Andy, going back to Andy and saying, listen, this doesn't seem to be proper or correctly. So I had to go back and kind of correct Andy, shall we say, because things didn't add up on the site, shall we say, or I've heard this story. You know, when I was out photographing, I engaged with a lot of people, so they told me their story, their family connection, whether it be directly to the site or, you know, tangential, shall we say. So
right, because in a way, you know, and I mean this in the best way, these are, at first glance, kind of boring pictures. You know, they're absolutely not spectacular, and it's only slowly when you start to look a little bit more, you get drawn in, and you start to perhaps piece together a story, or you obviously in this instance you can read the text and so on around it, which ties you into the process so clearly. When you were working on these places, really, to me, this is it's a deeply photographic project, more than almost a historical one, in that you can sense this, the idea that something happened in this place, and you go and you want to take a picture of it. In a way, something has been decided for you. You know, it's this place, but beyond that, there's all what angle, what time of day, how is this going to look? Is it going to be with people? Is it going to be a close-up? Is it going to, So one of the things I really admire about this body of work is that while it's very disparate, there's a kind of sense of a measure to it. There's a measured distance. We're not kind of plunged into gory detail type, but there's no big kind of photographic hands pointing, saying, "Look at this," you know, like a close-up does. So there's something very measured, very objective, really quite cool, you know, in the approach you've taken, and yet, you know, it's cool, but it's not cold. It's at first sight boring, but then there is something that will catch you, you know. Perhaps the first photograph, maybe the watercourse road.
Blackpool, yes.
Yeah. I mean, that could be in a book by Stephen Shore of beautiful urban landscapes, and presumably this was something that also was kind of going on in your mind. So tell us a little bit about the actual process of going to the sites and exploring them photographically.
Just going back in a little bit in what you were just saying, I thought about this for a very, very long time before I actually photographed. I had to kind of set a kind of a standard in how it would look at the end, or potentially look at the end. So it was done in the middle of the day, overcast skies. I wanted to give a kind of a neutral space for these incidents to kind of exist in. That was one of my first kind of...
Well, I'm kind of glad you weren't relying on blue skies.
Yeah, that's true. There was lots of showers of rain in between these photographs as well, but yeah, I had to kind of see what they would look like at the end. I had to set myself a standard, right? Give them that classic kind of Irish, kind of steely grey sky kind of day, and to kind of set everybody in a certain standard. You know, usually when you say on the site somebody died, you would point at a place in the wall or a point on the ground. And to go and do this project with that in mind, all we come up with would be 59 pieces of concrete on the wall, on the ground, marking out the exact spot where people had died.
Right.
But this was more ambiguous than that. There wasn't just a spot on the road. You know, sometimes, yes, you could say there was a spot, that's where the person died.
Yeah.
But other ones, it was vague. Someone disappeared from the edge of the city, never to be seen again. How do you convey that photographically? That was having those spaces that were more ambiguous were better for me as a photographer, because it gave me more scope. Where if it was an exact spot, then that, you know, it limits your scope of photographically interpreting the space you're inhibiting. You talk about that detachment, but not cool detachment. You know, it was important for me to give that space between the site and me as a photographer. Give that room, that space to breathe.
Right.
The space also for people to interpret it in different ways, rather than focusing their vision on one specific thing. It was important to kind of encapsulate the environment as well.
Yes.
In a sense, without being too standoffish, but to give, you know, a little bit of a distance that people can feel they can sit in and observe the photograph without being uncomfortable.
They can kind of, you mean they can kind of inhabit it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. I was saying that there's no big close-ups of, you know, of people or whatever, but there are definitely, you know, people in the landscapes, but they're kind of like figures rather than people. So there's a sort of sense of you know, when you see a photograph with a figure in a landscape, it's something strange happens where, from the way we look, the way we you know, visual perception is that you end up somehow mentally inhabiting that space from that person's point of view almost. When you see, if you check with any photograph actually, and then just kind of rub out or hold over the figure, and it changes totally. So I mean, obviously you've not done it kind of, some of the pictures are like this beautiful one here, that the Stephen Shore picture, Watercourse Hill, whatever the road is, that one you know, works also for its emptiness, and there would be quite a number that work very much on the empty kind of resonance, particularly the interiors, I think. We're looking now at the
interior of
the
house where
Father
O'Callaghan was shot
right,
dead by
right.
the British forces.
Yeah, I should say that this particular image is it's one of the larger, although a lot of them are very large in the exhibition, and it's also then produced as a kind of surface mounted on acrylic.
On acrylic, yeah.
So it has a kind of a jewel-like quality. It's a really beautiful image, kind of would stand alone as well as, you know, be very much integral to the project as a whole. Perhaps you'd like to talk a little bit about that particular image and making it?
Well, I mean, the whole, you talk about the figure in the photograph, a lot of them I feel are almost in the space, almost pausing. I mean, you're saying they're almost like statues or figures that have paused in their daily routine and are looking at a building or looking off into the distance. That was very much intentional by me, because some of these spaces, like the Father O'Callaghan interior photograph, you know, that the spaces are used by people on a constant basis. Some are Patrick Street, practically the busiest street in Cork City. So there was no way I was going to get away from not having somebody in the photograph. I think the person using that space has some relationship to the environment, very much, whether they're sitting down drinking a can of beer, you know, or pausing, fixing their shopping or whatnot. You know, these are showing how this space is used in contemporary society. So I think taking them out would do the whole space at this, you know,
absolutely,
dishonesty.
yes.
But saying that, O'Callaghan, you know, it is, I think it's a quiet space. Interiors are quieter spaces than outside in the bustling city. So I think it was giving also a pause for people to pause, look at the space, and kind of contemplating what actually happened there.
Yes.
But yeah, go ahead.
But it's funny. It's because it's such a beautiful picture, and you know, with the light coming from behind the door, the glass panels of the door. It's, you know, it is very. It's kind of about death, or it's seemingly, or a journey through it, to me anyway, and yet it does kind of connect you to you. You can feel that you're in that building, and there's definitely a very strong atmosphere which you've captured so well. So comparing things like that interior to the some of the real difficult spaces, I imagine, you know, where it's very noisy, it's outdoor, there's, as you say, people coming and going. In a sense, perhaps, did lockdown help in kind of just
calming everything down? Yes, I think it did. But it was important, you know, I figured out what time of day to actually go and take these photographs, like on Sundays when things are quieter, back in the good old times, shall we say.
Yeah.
You know, even at the start of COVID, when everybody's very much panicking, I think it affected us all. We all stayed in, so there was actually reluctance for a little while, but slowly, kind of carefully, I started navigating within my 2 kilometre space, then my 5 kilometre space, and taking these photographs. Funnily enough, on 2 occasions the police told me go home. You know, that I shouldn't be there.
Okay, because one thing I've noticed also is there is a lack of parked cars, which may be just the joy of a highly pedestrianised city like gorgeous Cork, but certainly at in contemporary world now, the parked car, it's the bane of good street photography sometimes.
Absolutely.
They really just get in the way. And
well, even before COVID, I made it a concerted effort to not include any cars as much as possible.
Right.
So a lot of these photographs are actually timed between breaks of traffic, you know.
Okay, right.
So you don't see the moving car in the back of the photograph, things like that. How I set up my camera, I made sure that I minimise that intrusion as much as possible. So yeah, I thought about these spaces. They came back to numerous times. Some of these I spent a whole working week photographing them, these spaces, just to get something.
I have no doubt, because although, you know, there's 59 or 60 images here, there is, you can really feel there's a depth to this work. You've also included what I think is really interesting, quite a number of short, like video screen pieces in the various installations, and the video screens are like a time lapse almost of showing pictures as you took them, kind of maybe a slightly different angle or maybe possibly even totally different day or coming back again. So there's a sense of kind of a lot of work has gone into doing this. Different things were going on. People were using these spaces in different ways. How in the end did you kind of choose the final picture, say, make your decision for the final shot, if you like?
Well, each photograph is, as you know, is edited down from a series of images. But it was important for me to kind of talk about, this series of photographs is now going to be shown in the gallery. These photographs are going to be used as publicity, or these photographs are going to be used for a book. So each medium I'm going to show these photographs is as important. How these photographs are sequenced, how they are laid out, is very important. Talking about the videos, the 5 videos, small little monitors I have in the exhibition, it's important for me to show the viewer how the image, how my processes, how I work, how I take photographs, how these photographs were made. And as you said, some were in slight different angles to the actual resultant photographs.
Right.
But they, in 1 or 2 of them, you actually had the photograph being made. So I worked around that compressed sequence of photographs. That's what they are. It's not a video. It's a series of compressed photographs put in a sequence and connected together to make a kind of a stuttered video. But the stutteredness also shows that these are individual frames. These are frames of how I'm photographing the space, how I'm photographing specific people doing specific things within the photograph to see if then they are related to the history or the story of the incidents of what happened at these spaces.
Right, because I understand it, you don't kind of intervene or you're not placing or doing a Crutzen or whatever, as in kind of building an entire set. So it's very much a kind of strict documentary in that respect. Is that right?
Yeah, you have to set out parameters. What am I going to photograph? How am I going to photograph it? So it's very thought through, rather than leaving things for chance or for that fluke image, shall we say.
Sure. No, it's because what I think you've kind of done photography a great service here, in that one of the wonderful things about photography is that people can read it very easily, people feel comfortable with it, people feel empowered to make criticisms of it. I'm sure you will get a lot of people saying, I could do that, with my iPhone or whatever. And that's, in a way, that's a great thing, because people feel that everything is on a level. It's a very democratic medium. And you've done us a favour by actually allowing people to see how it is that this process comes about, and to not just through the videos or the time-lapse pictures, and including kind of some sense of the time involved in documenting a particular site. But also, I think, in the installation and in the display and in the different kind of formats that you've chosen. Could you speak a little bit more about kind of choosing how you chose to do some flat, kind of stuck directly onto the wall, and some are framed and some are finished, as we were saying, in the very kind of jewel-like finish. What was going on there?
What was going on there? Well, it was a kind of collaboration between myself, between Dawn Williams and myself in relation to the exhibition. In ways that, how Dawn knows this space very well. She knows, as curator here in the Crawford for many years, she has had experience in what looks good on the wall, what doesn't, what works here, what works there.
Right.
So with her help, we were able to kind of group the photographs in specific ways, not having the same frames for all of them, showing different ways how photographs can be shown. That was very important for us, rather than, as Dawn says, the two-step shuffle, where every frame and photograph is exactly the same. They're all laid out in a line, and all you do is take two steps right, 2 steps right, 2 steps right.
That's right. Or in fact, when you first walk into a space like that, actually to some extent you can have a little bit of a heart sink moment where you go, oh my God, I've got to do all this. I've got to get to, there's just this kind of regimented. No, this is very, very lively, very engaging.
We had to do that. This was very intentional because we had to make this space work. Also the colour schemes as well it's quite important. To bring in colours, to bring in layout design. We had a fantastic designer, Eamon, who came in and helped us.
Did a great job.
Who worked with Dawn on their last exhibition, Citizen Nowhere, and she felt that he might help in laying out, breaking up the space, rather than having the traditional white cube.
Yes, indeed. Certainly, from what I gather, that the visitors so far have been spending a lot of time here as well, which is always lovely.
There's a lot to take in,
and there is, but that there's also a kind of a younger demographic maybe has been more involved with it as well. Was that something that you set out to do as well? Or is this just one of the lovely things about photography again, that younger people do seem to respond to it more readily?
I think my whole generation have kind of come from the kind of school of the two-step shuffle. This is the way it should be, this is the way it's done. And over the last couple of years, from the phenomenon of the photo book, I think that's part of the whole kind of freeing up of photography in a lot of ways, that you just don't have to put them on a gallery wall. You can take the photographs, use them, have fun with them, make them big, make them small, be playful with them. I think that's very important, to break up monotony that I felt that was in photography for so long. And I feel
there is. I mean, this is a funny thing to say, but there are really playful moments in this show, and in the work, that while on the one hand I think it is a deeply respectful and like I say, even-handed and kind of neutral laying out of places where tragedies happened, and a sense that when you're looking through the exhibition, you get an idea of, in a way it's sad that people just don't know that these things happened there, and they're walking by and they, but on the other hand, there's a slight comfort there as well, that life goes on and places move, and we can't be always looking back, and those kind of thoughts do come to you. But some of the pictures, it's just there's a touch of bizarre to it as well. There's one I know with the interior, and it's a birthday scene from the interior.
Yes.
I think we might get to that at some point, but that picture, for example, there's these kind of bizarre things going on. There's other pictures, the one from the GPO as a diptych.
Playful,
really playful. There's a small child. It's almost, it's like kind of spot the clue, make the story, kind of, there's these kind of details jump out at you as you start to look. A small child is hiding behind a street barricade. The street itself is called Phoenix Street. And of course, the Fenians were called the Phoenix Society in the initial independence struggles. And there's a thing about a photographer's wall is there as well, and it's talking about bringing old photographs to life, or there's somebody kind of looking a little bit kind of looking behind their shoulder a little bit. There's these funny clues, or you feel that you could make a story, you know, and it's, you know, it's that kind of decisive moment, if you like, that I find incredible that you've managed to kind of get that together across 59 times, more or less, to make something of really a very boring and innocuous contemporary urban
space,
you know, with sort of generic shop signs and all that around it, and to try to kind of get those little details all working in the same way. In a way, I suppose, here we're looking at this particular picture from the what's it called?
Quarry in,
the Quarry.
Douglas.
That picture would be maybe have a different resonance for people, and that is, it's also one of those just beautiful landscapes you've managed to kind of wrest out of perhaps
from being enclosed in the city, photographing the
yeah.
in the inner city all the time. It was liberating to go out there, to feel the air, to feel the space. So it did give me that scope, you know,
yeah.
to say, right, where did the gentleman fell into the quarry, but where in the quarry we didn't know. So I had that whole vast space in which to kind of to bring out a photograph, shall we say.
I know. I mean, I think it's just fantastic. Also, the way you have that figure there, just to give a sense of scale.
It took me time to get that person to stand there.
Can I ask you? Just we kind of jumped straight into things here, and I did mean to ask you a little bit about, I suppose, not so much influences, but inspirations. And you know, there are all sorts of different kinds of work in photography and in other media to do with questions of commemoration, or of kind of history, and of how the past can erupt into the present, or how it gets effaced, or all of those questions. What, perhaps maybe you just mentioned some of your inspirations?
I think somebody that's quite well known is Chloe Matthews, and her series of photographs shot at dawn. Chloe undertook a series of photographs, about 20 odd photographs, where she went back to the places where people were executed for cowardice,
for desertion,
insubordination during World War
yeah.
I. So these quiet little spaces, the corner of a little farmhouse, the corner of a church.
And she, I believe, went also and took the picture very much at dawn as well.
Yes.
So she has that kind of
a beautiful
crepuscular light. Yes.
Beautiful dawn light in her photographs.
And in those kind of situations, though, do you not feel that there is a danger of you know, the kind of aestheticization that can happen? And I think that you've kind of got around that possible problem in these, in that they don't appear aestheticized. They are.
I don't think you can aestheticize these spaces. They're just.
Yeah.
I think it's just too problematic to try and link all these photographs in this series like that. I think you just got to show them warts and all, you know.
Right.
The city we see photographed here is kind of dirty, grimy. You know, it's a bit rough in some places.
It is, yeah.
And, you know...
But it's definitely lived in.
It's lived in space, yeah. Where Chloe's spaces are much more quieter,
They were art spaces.
They're art spaces, yes.
No, absolutely. And you mentioned also, when we were talking earlier, about various film works that also had been kind of inspiring. In particular?
Wonderful documentary from 1968-69 by French filmmaker Marcel Ophuls called The Sorrow and the Pity. Just YouTube, it's The Sorrow and the Pity trailer, you'll get a good idea. But Marcel at that time spoke, it was the generation that were dying that had been lived during World War II. And over a series of 7 hours, he has photographed dozens of people who took all different positions in France during World War II, whether it be resistance fighters, collaborators, deserters, all these different, and they all told their own story.
Right.
And you could see that all the stories are very conflicting. And you could see they all had genuine reasons for the positions they took. And that was very intriguing to me. And that, you know, war is bad, war is dirty, war is crap. And it very much showed that war is not black and white. It's not that proud resistance fighters overcoming the Nazis.
And then by extension here, it's that in commemorating, we shouldn't, or we're not holding something up and making it kind of all gorgeous and sort of a lovely shiny white marble, something or other.
And they're heroes, you know.
In fact, it's actually reinserting them back into the life of the city at the moment.
But it was also important as well to get everybody who I photographed in this project to put them on a level playing field, whether they're British military, whether we're Irish Republicans, whether we're citizens, whether we're men, women, children. You know, I didn't discriminate about who I was to photograph. It was important for me to find a photograph within that, as a visual storyteller.
There is a kind of a humanism here, rather than a kind of looking at an institutional or a political history.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, at its core is the individual.
I mean, I took a cue also as well from the centenary there when Enda Kenny and David Cameron went to the front, the World War front, and together they stood in front of memorials to commemorate all soldiers who died in World War I. And I think that was quite a poignant moment. It was kind of saying, well, we're now, you know, commemorating these soldiers, whether they were British or Irish. They still fought.
Right.
In
and have you found how have people responded to this particular work? You know, has there been a divisive thing? There was quite a lot of debate over a possible commemoration or not of the RIC. And again, that was as an institution, how do we stand about commemorating institutions like the RIC? And here, you know, everyone is given an equal standing.
Status.
And have I believe some people have not been happy about that, or?
Well, I mean, when the show was about to start, I was quite hesitant that there might be a bit of a backlash. We did have a bit of a backlash, shall we say, before the actual opening of the exhibition, where people read the press statement about what was going to come, and they just didn't like the way, you know, I think some people are quite set in their ways. They've been told these stories by possibly their relations or grandparent, and they've taken it as de facto statement.
Right. Well, they didn't like it before they saw it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
yes. Okay.
But I think people who have come and seen the show, there's so much to take in that they've had to come back a second time. That the weight of the photographs and of what happened there was just so much to take in, and they've had to come back, numerous times to to digest the whole thing.
Right, and indeed, so there's a lot in this exhibition. I would really urge people to come and see it, if not in person, but also on the virtual tour, which is a very powerful way of looking at it too. And also, I believe then you're working on a realization of this also in the form of a photo book.
Yes.
Would you like to just maybe we'll finish off with that?
Okay. Along with this exhibition, I've also been working on a photo book. I spent a couple of, let's say, editing sessions with photographer Owen O'Connell, who we're both familiar with, editing out a sequence of images to kind of put it in book form. It's different from this exhibition. There's about 15 photographs that are included in the book but are not included in the exhibition, and I think working with a book format, working with an exhibition format, they're two quite
absolutely
different things.
Yeah.
And I've also got written contributions. I've got a beautiful piece of prose by poet Tom McCarthy to introduce the book, and also a main essay by Andy Bielenberg, who we spoke about earlier. I wanted him to kind of contribute to contribute to the book in a historical sense. I wanted him to set out a kind of how this historical event sits with other kind of troubled times all over the world, like Chilean Pinochet regime, things like that. So kind of
I must
studies.
say, your work often kind of situates things in a properly global context, actually. So and I think that would be kind of useful. So we need to. We have a few questions actually coming through.
Can I just finish on the book?
Sure.
I'll hopefully, if all things go well, I'll be launching it here in the Crawford Art Gallery in about the middle of August. So
I look forward to that. No, it's going to be. I think you have the right attitude to how it's going to, how it can work this way, it can work that way. I think, and it'll be also a fresh and exciting way of looking at this material too. So in its own right,
and it's a memorial as well to the exhibition
absolutely.
in some ways that will go on and live on further, well beyond when this exhibition closes in August.
Indeed, because I mean this whole project has, as I understand it, been supported by the Department of
Arts, Culture,
Tourism, Sport, Media, Gaeltacht, and fair play to them. That's through the decade of commemorations funding there, and I think not just the exhibition, but then to be able to have it as realised in a book form as well is really a strong testament to that. So fair play to them. We do have some questions though, so I'm going to ask you there. Can Dara talk about his decision to employ a straight photo aesthetic when it could be more tempting to take a more contemplative, melancholy or even melodramatic approach?
Even by that question, by that person saying the question, I don't want to fall into that melodramatic, I knew that straight away, by dealing with this. I had to show it in a fresh way, a different way, an unpredictable way, I hope.
Right, yeah. No, it's a really brave way because it's bravely boring.
Yeah, bravely boring.
But I think we'll leave it at that then. And thank you so much, and really congratulations to Crawford as well here for getting behind this exhibition from the start. Beautifully curated, beautifully installed, on until the end of August.
Please come and visit.
And then with the book launch sometime in the middle of August. So lots of things to look forward to. Congratulations, well done.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you.
I wish I could see you, to watch how you'll grow, to see what you'll see, to know what you'll know. I wish I could hold you in the palm of my hand and take you where I'm going, but I can't. take you where I'm going, but I can't. The green and the gray, so far away under a blue sky. The green and the gray, so far away under a blue sky. Yeah. And this bloodshed and this violence, it's nothing new to you. You've seen it all before. And this leaving and this grieving, it's nothing new to you. You kick your children out your door. Look up, look out, that's where I'll be. I wish I could see you and you see me. Look up, look out, that's where I'll be. I wish I could see you and you see me. I wish I could see you, to watch how you'll grow, to see what you'll see, to know what you'll know. Oh, and I wish I could hold you in the palm of my hand and take you where I'm going, but I can't. The green and the gray, so far away under a blue sky. The green and the gray, so far away under a blue sky. Yeah.
There you were standing in the doorway, watching all the world go by. All around your city casting dark shadows, up above the birds flew high. You just left big trouble behind you, got out from an ugly scene. I hope that trouble don't come looking for to find you. You're happy now, it seems. The city took you down to the gutter. You gotta have nerves of steel. You lost your friend and your lover. You almost forgot how to feel. Come on, babe, let's go down to the river, where the water is cool and sweet. Come on, babe, let's go down to the river. You can bathe your weary feet. Remember, you tapped me on the shoulder, asked me if I was playing tonight.